Welcome to London Live Debate with Reya El-Salahi. This is the show that takes a deeper look at the stories making headlines in the capital and the issues at the heart of life in the city. The question up for debate is a culture of silence stopping sexual assault from being taken seriously enough. The Met's confirmed it's investigating a number of abuse allegations involving Harvey Weinstein here in London. While the movie producer admits he's behaved inappropriately in the past, he insists it was consensual. But could the scandal mark a turning point in the way we deal with this issue in the future? Joining me to share their thoughts on this, a panel of straight-talking, opinionated Londoners. First up, Sofia Geraghty, a journalist and member of London's Great Debaters Club. Next, the director of grassroots Tory activists group Conservative Progress, Nabil Najjar. And rounding up the trio, a former professional boxer turned politician who's hoping to become the next Mayor of London, Winston McKenzie. OK, let's kick things straight off. Sofia, with you. A rich and powerful man accused of exploiting his influence over dozens of women. What was your initial response when you heard the allegations?
I mean, this might be controversial, but for me personally, I wasn't really surprised. So I think you've got so many where you kind of see this opportunity. You've got so many young women who, you know, they've dreamed of this since they're like 3 years old, and you look at they survey children, what do people want to be? It's actresses, it's singers. It's this whole sort of society where we're built on, you know, wanting to be famous, wanting this Hollywood dream. And, you know, we see that, like, that gives such an opportunity for someone who can, he's kind of the gatekeeper in a way for these women and their dreams. He's got this opportunity to abuse his power. And for me, it's sort of given that situation, it's not really surprising. I think it's just now we're seeing, rather than seeing, you know, the nice side of Hollywood, we're seeing behind the curtain, we're seeing this kind of grotesque kind of figure rather than all the glitz and glamour, which we see. And for me, I think it's a good thing it is coming out, but I'm not surprised. Interesting stuff. Nabil, a surprise for you when you heard the allegations?
The allegations themselves weren't so much of a surprise, more the scale of it, just the sheer number of women who've come forward and you know, have been open and upfront about what happened to them. And you know, as Sofia says, you know, this is an industry where, you know, where young women and young men, for that matter, are in close proximity with people of power, and you know, I think hopefully this could be maybe a watershed moment where we can take an inward look and, you know, how do we as a society support, you know, young women and young men, make them feel safe and secure in sharing what's happened to them, and hopefully try and prevent things like this from happening again.
Winston, when you first heard the news of the allegations, when it first broke, what was your initial response?
I wasn't shocked. It was just something that we know about, we hear about, and it was even more close proximity when they brought out this giant of a man, Harvey. Now, the simple fact is, we all know that in every walk of life where there's power and position, things happen. You can feel nothing but sorrow for those who are caught unawares and led into it, half blind. But there's a saying. The old saying has always been, don't send your daughter to the stage. You know, it's an old-time saying, old-fashioned saying, you know. So I wasn't shocked. What we mustn't do now, what is very important, is create an atmosphere where every time a guy blinks at a woman in the office, he has to get his lawyer. We don't want to create that sort of atmosphere where guys feel intimidated. I'm not for 1 minute taking the side of rapists and perverts. This type of thing does go on. And when it does hit a young woman in particular, it's almost a life-ending misery. So we've got to take that side of it really seriously.
Sofia, what do you make of that idea that you have to be careful about the culture that you have in office places, in places far beyond Hollywood?
I think it's one of them things where I think it's bringing that communication out into the open, because I think it's on both sides, as in it's making women, it's also, say, if a man behaves inappropriately, that shouldn't happen, but also, and it's not a fault thing in the woman, but she should have the confidence to say, you know, I don't feel comfortable, or like stand up for herself without having to take on this. It shouldn't be kind of so, you know, quiet. It should be brought out into the open. People should feel comfortable to say, you know, that wasn't right. I'm kind of questioning this, but I think there's an element, especially if it's, say, the boss and, you know, the intern, if this exchange is going on, then who in the office is going to, if they want their jobs, who's going to necessarily stand up and say, I don't agree with this, and the intern as well in that situation, because she could be gone like that with someone else in. So it's everyone in the room, in my view.
Woody Allen touched on this idea of a culture where there's a witch hunt against men in office spaces. Nabil, what do you make of that idea that Winston brought up, that you don't want to see a culture where men feel afraid to talk to women?
I think, as with anything, there's a balance to be struck here. It's about absolutely making sure that procedures and systems are in place where if sexual misconduct has taken place, the perpetrators are brought to justice, and that women feel safe and confident, and men for that matter, safe and confident to express their feelings, knowing that the judicial system is on their side. At the same time, we have to be wary of a couple of things here. One of which is the concept which our judicial system is built on, which is innocence until proven guilty. And the idea that, you know, men or women who are accused of these sorts of things are essentially tried in the court of public opinion before any legal decision is made, can have serious ramifications if it later turns out that that individual was in fact innocent. And so we need to be mindful of that. And equally, we have to understand that, you know, speaking frankly, you know, sexual relationships are a part of day-to-day life.
Everyday life.
Are they a part of workplaces, though? Is it acceptable for a man to wink at a woman in a workplace in the year 2017?
I mean, it's human nature. Come on now. Are we going to turn our backs on human nature and just become like robots?
And it's hard.
You can't. It's human nature. I mean, sometimes, look, I mean, if anyone's guilty of that type of thing, I've been to a few women in my lifetime, and all men have. Majority of men have. And if a guy sees a beautiful woman and he winks at her, it's almost a human reaction. You know, some people go out of their way to make themselves known and impress themselves upon others. But I think overall, the best thing that's happened with all this stuff with Harvey, he obviously needs some help, poor guy, is the fact that there are children out there really suffering. Grown women are responsible for their own actions, their own lives. They're big enough, strong enough to draw some sort of conclusion. But when you think of the millions and thousands of children out there suffering without they haven't got the aptitude or the know-how to say help. You know, it's great that all this is coming out now. We're all beginning to talk about it. Let's have you, bring it all on, and let's get the perverts to come out of their little boxes and be counted.
Interesting that you say that grown women are responsible for their own actions.
Yeah,
Do you attribute that to this situation where plenty of women coming forward to accuse Harvey Weinstein of sexual abuse, of going into workplaces and having to face really horrific circumstances, which obviously in this case are just allegations, but are women responsible for that?
Well, look, 6 of one and half dozen of the other is the way I see it. A lot of people will do what they do, get into sexual relationships in all walks of life. It's not just Hollywood, it's the whole world over. I watched a great interview with Jane Fonda last night, and what she said, what she had to say with regard to this specific issue was quite fantastic, really. She could have just sat on the fence and said, you know, what a horrible guy. And we all think that. If he's doing what he's doing and it's proved to be exactly as they say it is, then the guy needs help. But people the world over will enter into these sexual liaisons, in some cases, for gratification in their jobs or whatever it is. There are those that really suffer. But some women, I have to say, and not just women, men, children, across the board, are so vulnerable that they do need protection. The law does need to protect them. You know?
I agree. I kind of think everyone kind of contributes to it, and I know, and it's kind of on the same spectrum, but it's completely different. I know when someone, you know, might flirt with someone to get something, you know, a drink in a bar, for example, and that's that's completely minor. But it's all kind of the same idea that, you know, sexuality is an asset which can be exchanged for goods in a way. It's all kind of, you know, and that's very innocent, but it kind of does all kind of contribute to this idea. And I think we want to work somewhere where this is free from the workplace. Like, in an ideal world, it's not even if someone's young or good looks or anything like that. It's their job and how well they do it.
It'll never be free from the workplace, Angel. It just comes on. I mean,
there are things we can do to help, assemble a secure atmosphere.
Awareness
I mean,
is what we want.
I saw Reya walk into the green room today, and I thought, oh my gosh, right? I thought she was beautiful, but I didn't say nothing. I just looked. But the simple fact is, people's behaviour, sometimes it just gets completely out of hand.
But isn't that the point, Winston, that if you keep it to yourself, it's fine, if you keep that thought to yourself, but if you say it out loud and you're in a position where you're in power and the person you're working with
the power
isn't,
dynamic.
is that the
Oh, I get where you're coming from there. I mean, if you're in a position of power, then you have to set the agenda that I can't tolerate that type of behaviour in my office or my place of work. But I'm talking about the one-off situation where even sometimes, look, I was out in the street just recently in Oxford Street, and I came out, sorted out whatever I had to do, and a woman came up to me out of nowhere and said, excuse me, an elderly woman, she must have been whatever age, and she said to me, I'd like to compliment you on how you look. And I was amazed. And my PA was with me, Marianne, and I thought to myself, well, if I'd said that to her, and it'd been the other way around, would I have been accused of being some sort of pervert, whatever it is?
It's an interesting point. We're going to extend on this in just a moment. I'm afraid to say we are heading for a short break now. You're watching London Live Debate. Still to come, could the Weinstein scandal mark a turning point in the way we deal with sexual assault in future? That's coming up after this short break. Welcome back to London Live Debate. I'm Reya El-Salahi, and tonight the question up for discussion is a culture of silence stopping sexual assault from being taken seriously enough. The Met's confirmed it's investigating a number of abuse allegations involving Harvey Weinstein. The Hollywood mogul's accused of assaulting 3 women in separate incidents in London spanning back to the late 1980s. The 65-year-old's denied any allegations of non-consensual sex, but could the scandal mark a turning point in the way we deal with this issue in future? Now, this all comes as the hashtag #MeToo has been trending worldwide on social media, kicked off by the American actress Alyssa Milano, who tweeted, "If all the women who've been sexually harassed or assaulted wrote Me Too as a status, we might give people a sense of the magnitude of the problem." Nabil, is this the right way to deal with the issue?
I think anything which encourages openness, encourages people to come forward, and encourages everybody to engage with this serious issue is a good thing. But we have to be careful with social media trends and fads. I think what we see, and it's happened before with the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, with no makeup selfies, for example, and this is obviously a more serious issue than that. But there comes a point where genuine engagement with the issue fades away and is replaced by self-promotion or that sort of thing. So we need to be careful not to lose sight of what this is. This is a call to action for everybody, whether or not you've been sexually harassed, everybody, men and women, to engage with this, accept the fact this is a serious and prevalent issue, and take steps to tackle it. What this isn't is a contest on social media or an attempt to aggregate likes or follows or whatever it might be. We can never lose sight of the fact this is a serious issue, and we can't let social media degrade that.
Sophia, does the idea of talking about this on social media sit well with you?
I think so, because I really like when you said everyone has, because I was about to launch in and say, oh, every girl I know has been harassed, etc. And then you said that, and I was thinking of guys I know. And I have heard stories, where it is more prevalent. I think having it on social media...
I mean, have you been harassed?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I was going to say every girl, but so many people I know, probably the majority, have been. And I think having that on social media, saying, these aren't people, lone, we all, but everyone can do it. Everyone has the capability, even if they're too drunk and they something that they don't think is that bad, but everyone, it's all of us. And it opens that discussion without... I don't think we should be pointing fingers. We should be getting people to look at themselves and be like, okay, what have I done that's maybe not being considerate to someone, or etc. And it's everyone should get involved in that.
And one of the most striking, one of the most striking things that's come out of this from my perspective is today I was having a conversation with a friend of mine I've known the chap for a very long time. He admitted, that he's been the victim of sexual harassment in the past. This guy would never have dreamed of discussing this or making these feelings known. But if we're creating an environment where it's okay to talk about it, it's okay to admit that something bad has happened to you, then that's a great thing.
See, there's a difference between being harassed and passing a compliment. Some people, they can't distinguish between the two. We don't want a situation whereby just because you talk to a woman and pass a compliment, it's considered harassment. That's why it's so very important that we deal with this issue clinically and not cynically. Because in many cases where you see these type of accusations come out, people steaming, there are a few people steaming, and they deal with it just for self-gratification. They may not be getting any publicity in their career or whatever it is, but I'm going to get on telly, I'm going to get in the newspapers, and these things happen.
Do you really believe that people will speak out about being victims of sexual assault for publicity?
100%. It depends what's involved. It depends what's involved and what's at stake. There are people it's particularly in showbiz, who have their careers died a death, and they need a bit of publicity, and they don't care. There are people, but that diminishes the legitimate, honest claims of people who have been used and abused.
I think it's less black and white than innocent, because I think if you meet a random person and they behave in a way, then in that situation you can automatically go on defensive and whatever. But when it's someone like someone you are, especially in this instance where it's someone who's this massive power in Hollywood, and these girls, they know his friends, all their friends are in the industry, like it's their whole social life. For them to, kind of get up and speak out against that, they're risking everything. Like, do you know what I mean? They're risking their whole sort of, it's not a random person.
But you go into showbiz, I take what you say 100%, but you go into showbiz, and it's not just showbiz, but predominantly showbiz. That type of thing is gonna go on. But what we can do is work towards making some women taking responsibility for their own actions, and also the men also, with what's happened, men in positions of power, particularly.
Nabil, do you want to pick up on that? Should men take responsibility, or should women take responsibility?
We should take responsibility.
I think it's incumbent on everybody to report harassment when they see it. It's incumbent on everybody within the corporate environment to be mindful of the well-being of your colleagues and your employees. I think we need a wholesale change of the way we do things here. We need to invest in better training, and for example, human resources to be able to spot and counsel for this. We need to be making an issue of this in the press, making it clear to everybody that it's okay to come forward. We need to take this all the way back to education. And when we teach PSHE at schools, which we do, and we teach sexual education, we should also teach sexual equality of opportunity, and essentially practice what we preach, to make sure that even from a young age, everybody is aware of what's okay and what isn't. And that
I like that aspect of it, education. When the youngsters, the youth, they're so, you can influence them very easily. And if we can start from a young age, if we can have this thing going through schools, teachers preaching a rhetoric that you must respect, yourself and the female fraternity. It's fantastic.
And it goes even further than that, making it very clear to everybody involved that it's not okay to take advantage of, a girl who's had a few too many drinks, or a guy who's had a few too many drinks. It's, there are ways that people should behave. And I think that education has to start a lot of people only really come into contact with these sorts of things in year 11, sixth form university. This is something which should be drilled into people at an early stage.
Let me just pick up on something. After thousands of women demonstrated how widespread sexual assault is by sharing the hashtag #MeToo on social media, a campaigner on Twitter is now calling for men to drive change, saying, guys, it's our turn. After yesterday's endless hashtag #MeToo stories of women being abused, assaulted and harassed today, we say, hashtag #HowIWillChange. Winston, should all men take responsibility for sexual assaults?
I think if you've willfully gone out and assaulted a woman, of course you should take responsibility, and you should be woefully punished. But, you know, let us get out of the mainstream situation whereby everybody's sober, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing at work and behaving accordingly. I mean, this is going to be so difficult. When alcohol comes into the equation, people lose their senses. And you don't have to be drunk, but what happens is your normal instincts suffer. And alcohol, I'm afraid to say, alcohol plays a big part in people's lives today. So where a person wouldn't normally approach someone or do something, they do, and they're not in their normal senses. And there are so many people walking around today who've had a few, they're at work, they're doing whatever it is they're doing, and things happen.
Can I pick up on the how I will change very quickly?
Sure.
I don't think it's worded correctly. I think the vast majority of men do not knowingly harass women, or at least not in my opinion.
That's right.
I think it's a case of looking inward and thinking, how can we do more? But it's not something which should be plastered on social media. It's not
I don't need to harass any woman. I'm a good-looking boy. You know,
lucky
I think we need to move away from like the gender and the characterization of it, and see it more as the action itself. Like, have people come forward saying, rather than, because a lot of people, if they've got really drunk and they behaved inappropriately, the vast majority are hugely embarrassed the next day. And if maybe having that label chucked on them and making it, that's not the way to go about it. It's more to actually bring it in and have people say, you did this, everyone say, and that was wrong, and then give the person the opportunity to actually be like, make amends, but still be accepted, depending obviously on what they have done. I mean, obviously it's the extreme if it's illegal, but if it's like a drunk inappropriateness, give them the opportunity to still be part without having a label that
I think it's vital, sorry to cut you, I think it's vital that women know there's a safety net there. And if you have been willfully and woefully abused, there is a safety net there. We've got a situation now whereby if a woman is abused or assaulted, she feels frightened to go to the police, frightened to report it because of this silence. Situation arises whereby if I go to court, I'll have to relive the ordeal again. That is what we need to concentrate on. We need to have a situation where a woman can easily approach the authorities and it will be dealt with.
Afraid to say we are fast running out of time, but let's just talk about what perhaps needs to change to prevent a scandal like this from happening again, Nabil.
But it will happen.
Unfortunately, Winston's right there in the sense that there are always going to be issues which arise. All we can do is make sure that that procedures are in place to make sure women feel safe to come forward and to come forward early.
That's right.
I assume the earlier you come forward and tell the police about what's going on, the greater the likelihood that you will get justice.
Yeah, don't sit on it.
And if we can build this environment where it's okay to come forward, where HR departments at these big corporations are trained to deal with this, where counselling is on offer where it's needed, and when we tackle this issue at an early stage with better education, then I think we can start to see a system where this can be dealt with more effectively.
Okay, it's been fascinating to hear your thoughts. I am afraid to say, Winston, we're out of time. It's great to have you all here. I'm afraid to say that is all from us. Thanks to panellists Sofia Geraghty, Nabil Najjar and Winston McKenzie. London Live Debate returns at 5:30 on Sunday the 19th of November. Thanks for watching.